Important in the past as it is today, life literally depends on it. After food, water and safety comes sex. Today we are going to explore sex in the cities and rural areas of ancient India, along with the Kama Sutra, erotic tantric temple sculpture, polyandry and partner swapping. That's a lot, I know. Sex for procreation and recreation. Also, stick around until the end for a very special bonus gift. Hi, I'm Chris Mooney-Singh, an Australian writer living in Asia and immersed in its diverse cultures for over 30 years. Today on The Talking Turban, I want to discuss human sexuality in early India. First, recreational sex was a sophisticated business for the well-off city dweller. It was codified through lifestyle manuals like the Kama Sutra. Attributed to Vatsyayana, a sage who is believed to have lived in India around the 2nd and 3rd century CE, the Kama Sutra is an ancient Sanskrit treatise on human sexual behavior and relationships. Vatsyayana compiled it as a guide to virtuous and gracious living that aims to integrate the purpose of pleasure with the principles of right living. While the text is widely known for its chapters on sexual positions, it also covers various aspects of human relationships, etiquette, and lists 64 arts and skills worthy of being cultivated by women and men alike, from composing poetry and making perfumes to tying turbans and mastering tongue twisters. The Kama Sutra has something for everybody. It addresses both men and women, providing advice on how to enhance pleasure and maintain a harmonious relationship. It is essential, however, to approach the Kama Sutra with an historical perspective, acknowledging that societal attitudes toward gender roles have evolved, and that the text may not align with contemporary views on gender equality. In addition, art was used to interpret sexual practices, sculpture for example. The famous Khajuraho Temple complex in central India, listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, embodies Kama Sutra sex positions in stone. Scholars postulate that it was sex ed for the literate and illiterate alike, as well as a procreative necessity at a time when warring kingdoms needed a constant supply of soldiers. Spanning 5 kilometers, the religious complex at Khajuraho is one of a handful of surviving Indian temples that celebrated erotic art up until the 13th century. Created between the 9th and the 11th centuries at the height of the Chandela dynasty, this city temple complex once spread over 20 kilometers and codifies the 4 objectives of Indian life. 1. Dharma, righteous living. 2. Artha, prosperity. 3. Kama, love and pleasure. 4. Moksha, enlightenment. Thus, these erotic temple friezes sculpted in sandstone form just one part of the holistic picture of life. Khajuraho survived after the fall of the Chandela rulers due to its isolation. The temple group symbolizes a union of worldly and spiritual desires, balancing masculine and feminine principles, embodying tantric yoga's essence. The Mughal Empire's dominance led to the destruction of such places of worship, giving rise to iconic monuments like the Taj Mahal, which I have shared a personal experience about here. All in all, sex in the city of ancient India was systematized and sophisticated. What about sex in rural India? Let's investigate further. If you're finding value in this video, please help out the channel by hitting the like button. While sex in the city expressed virtuous and gracious living, It aimed to integrate the pursuit of pleasure with the principles of Dharma. At the village level, however, sex was more about tribal bonding and economic survival. Years ago, I met an anthropologist who witnessed and described to me a fertility rite. Yes, I'm talking about partner swapping. For example, in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, deeply rooted in Buddhist and Hindu culture, polyandry remains a norm in the Kinnaurs district. This contrasts with polygamy, having multiple wives, the norm among the ruling classes of early India, while in the village the women have multiple husbands who are brothers. This is a practical measure for workload sharing and preserving small land holdings. According to 50-year-old Baldev Nath, one of two brothers, and their 55-year-old wife Dalmatashi, everyone is pleased. They live in Khaza, a small remote town in the Spiti Valley of the Western Himalayas. Baldev also shared this piece of folk wisdom. There are three causes of disputes among brothers: Zar, Zoro, and Zameen. Gold, women, and land. If there's a common Zoro, there is no dispute. The Brokpas of Ladakh have unique sexual customs, recently drawing tourism attention because their fair complexion and ancestral claim of being the last remaining Aryans in India. Although genealogists have shown through research that this is less likely to be the case, partner sharing and open sexuality have up until now helped with social bonding to preserve their Aryan Valley identity, discouraging marriage with outsiders, as well as a means of avoiding that generational land division thing. But modernity has had a creeping impact on Brokpa society. We didn't know what shame is, but gradually we are learning, says Tashi, a tribal spokesperson with 2 wives and 10 children. Up until the 1970s, men and women would kiss each other openly without any consideration of marital alliances, he says. Now we do it when there are no outsiders around. The case of the Murias tribes of central India is a variation on a similar theme. They send their teenagers to rustic dormitories called Ghotus, living communally, learning arts, crafts and tribal lore, as well as partner swapping, a tribal sex education measure before settling down with permanent spouses in lifelong monogamous marriages. Like the Kinnaurs and Brokpas, the Murias' exposure to the outside world and the effects of unfriendly government policies that aim to subsume tribal communities into the mainstream have been devastating. Limiting their access to the forest has destroyed lives based on hunting and foraging, as well as destroying their relationship with the forest and its gods. Cultural education has been interrupted by modern education and is more incidental these days. I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at sex in ancient India through the Kama Sutra, the Khajuraho Temples, and rural case studies of village sex practices. As I mentioned, years ago I met an ethnographic researcher who spent extensive time in rural Central and South India studying partner swapping and goddess worship. If you'd like to see and hear more, download my free multimedia ebook Love Not Tantra by scanning the QR code or just follow the link below. Meanwhile, for a spoken word and sung retelling of that fertility rite, click on the next video. See you there.